Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from podweather.com and Internet Partnership Radio with the latest on the tropics. We do have an interesting feature in the Atlantic that could potentially be a big threat down the road if it does one of two scenarios. We'll talk about that as well as extremely dangerous Hurricane Jimena. Let's get to the tropics now.
Now out there today in the tropics is Invest 94L, which is extremely close to becoming a tropical depression. You can see it sitting right out there in the central Atlantic, moving on towards the west-northwest. There's a cluster of showers here nearing the Bahamas associated with an upper level low, and that's going to play into the track of this system. And there's a wave leaving Africa. Some of the models do make a system moving west in the Atlantic, but first and foremost is our system. This is Invest 94L, and here it is on the visible satellite imagery. Now you see two spins. You see a spin up here, and you see what appears to be a circulation in this general region here. This one here is the one that appears to be the developing circulation. Take a look at that again. You can see as the sun came up, we have that spin right in this region here. So it is on the western side, it is sheared from the west, it is a disorganized system, and it is still not yet a tropical depression. However, QuickScat, which we do have, now shows the system does appear right in this region here to have a very ill-defined circulation. So, if that's the system, stronger winds are definitely in the northeast side where that convection is bursting the best, and we have a sheared system developing moving to the west, west-northwest. Now here is the key with it. The system has gained latitude the last few days, but it is still far south. It is still moving to the west-northwest, and we do have a ridge of high pressure that will likely build back in, but we don't know exactly the particulars on the exact track of the system. Now here are the model plots with it, and they are taking it generally west-northwest to northwest, and then slowing it down, and then turning it back to the west or west-northwest. So what we can say is, if this does develop, how strong will it get? Well, some of the ship's models are showing weakening because they're interacting it with land down here. But without the land, this could become a powerful hurricane if it doesn't run into wind shear, which is not yet guaranteed. But if it takes a track to the northwest and then curves west, that is a dangerous track for a hurricane to take because they usually, not always, but usually strengthen like mad over the Atlantic basin. Now I want to show you what we have out there. This was in 2004, so this is 5 years ago. Here was Francis. Remember Hurricane Francis in August of 2004? It was developing here. Now keep your eye on this area here for the features that I show you. Watch the pattern set up as it was similar to Francis. Note the upper level low. An upper level low developed right in the Bahamas there, and the system was much stronger than our Invest. It was a Cat 4 hurricane here, but note the upper level low here, sending westerly wind shear in its way. You had another system up here, and note what happened. The upper level low in the Bahamas weakened and moved out of the way. It created a lot of thunderstorms near the Bahamas like the one we're seeing now. The ridge rebuilt, and there went Francis spinning on off to the west with a ridge strengthening above it. Now look at what we have out there today. We have a very similar situation. We have a developing depression, not quite a Category 4 hurricane. We have a low pressure down here and a weakening upper low here. So what does that tell us with track? Well, the same thing that's happened to so many hurricanes, including Francis. It should get pulled to the north, slow down, and then curve back west. Where exactly it does it, how sharp a curve, whether or not it starts moving more northwesterly after that, or like the Canadian model shows out to sea, that is still unknown. But the chances are 50-50 that this could either take a track like this, be sheared, go out to sea, or end up curving back westward. And right now, it's unknown which one it'll take, but certainly anybody in the Atlantic basin needs to be watching this very carefully. The NAM model in 84 hours, by the time Friday rolls around, shows our system north of Puerto Rico. The ridge is rebuilding. It's going to probably take a track like that based on the weakness we see here. That's the NAM model. And you can see the Euro doesn't really pick up much on the system. You do see the little pocket here where the system is just north of Hispaniola and Cuba, but look at the size of this ridge. Anything that gets under this is going to be steered towards Florida and the Gulf of Mexico if that scenario pans out. And keep in mind, this is supposed to be on Sunday, 6 days from now. We'd also have another feature moving off Africa here. So we're going to be watching the tropics very carefully, because it does seem that if this system develops, you can see it has favorable conditions over the top of it now. It's going to break through a shear zone and then have very favorable conditions if it starts moving west. So if it develops as it appears to be doing, and if it turns west as the models and the pattern indicates it will do, then we're going to have to deal with a strengthening system, perhaps a dangerous hurricane nearing the Bahamas. But that is if it continues to develop as we've seen the last few hours. Also, the water temperatures, they get extremely warm as it nears the Bahamas and Florida. So if it takes that track as a hurricane under a ridge, and as some of the models show an anticyclone aloft, high pressure right over the top of it, that could be some serious trouble for us. So we're going to have to watch this very carefully. And the final analysis on our system in the Atlantic, you can see it there, it's really gotten better organized. It appears to have a circulation on the western edge of this convection here, moving on off towards the west-northwest with an anticipated turn back west. We'll keep an eye on it to see just what happens with it. Now, in the eastern Pacific, we do have two systems. Kevin's here, weakening. It's probably not going to do anything. It's down to depression. This is extremely dangerous Hurricane Jimena. Here's the latest on Jimena as of 11 a.m. It was at 18.0 north, 108.3 west. Winds were 145 miles an hour, gusting to 180 miles an hour. It's an extreme hurricane, extremely intense, moving northwest at 8. 940 millibars, recons on the way out. It should gradually weaken and make landfall as a Category 3 or 4 hurricane on the Baja on Tuesday. Where exactly it goes, though, has yet to be unknown, so we're going to have to watch. But there are hurricane warnings out there. Here's the visible satellite loop, and look at that thing spin up. It looks like it's undergoing an eyewall replacement cycle, so winds might remain steady around 140 miles an hour for a while. But it could reorganize. It could pop out a bigger eye and maybe even strengthen a little bit up towards 125, 130 knots. It's at 125 knots now, 145 miles an hour. So it's already dangerous. So as this continues to the north, you're going to have to watch it very, very carefully in Mexico and prepare for it, because it is expected to make landfall as a major hurricane. You can see the IR there as Hurricane Jimena continues towards the Baja of California. And there's Crovan. It's made landfall in Japan. It's weakening. It's pulling on off to the northeast. Some heavy rainfall there, but generally moving quickly. We won't have to deal with it anymore. I'm Mike Naso from IPR. That's the latest on the tropics. I'll see you next time.